Now I want to start to see the Hiroshima. I was 8 years old, a girl, so, and I want to share my experience and through the scene, 8 years old girl. And then I'm not a professor nor a researcher specialist, so I was just one of Hiroshima citizens. And thinking about that, please experience. This is Hiroshima City 2 months after the bomb. Camera moved from west end here like this. This is the west end of the city. Until the foot of the hill, city was completely destroyed. And then white area is inland sea. Until the seashore, everything was destroyed. Only a couple and the skeleton-like buildings were left. And then we are going to see the east area of the city. These buildings were left. Inside, completely burned down, and behind these buildings, there was the city center, downtown area. Those buildings were once banks, insurance companies, and the major companies' buildings. Only a few people could survive. Somebody in the basement, or somebody could scarcely and survive. Not so many. Behind this chimney, this direction, there is still now train station. In front of the train station, Shinkansen side, there is a hill. I was the other side of the hill. I was here when the bomb was dropped. From there, I saw the whole city. Exactly, I saw the whole city completely destroyed from that area. This is the map of Hiroshima. You see the red part shows completely burned down area, nothing left. And the yellow part, completely devastated, destroyed area. That means first there was a flash, and because of the flash, flammable thing start to burn, especially in the center part of the hypocenter. This is the ground zero hypocenter, and over 90% of people died there. By the first flash, people were burned and dead. Within 1,000-meter area, around 60% of people died there. And the people's clothes started to burn. I was living here at that time when the bomb was dropped. Still, I saw that the cottage with the straw roof caught fire, the original flash. But at the same time, soon after that, there was a strong blast, strong wind that attacked us. And then everything was blown and beaten and crashed down. All buildings were crashed down. Then, after that, burning the buildings were beaten and crashed down as if a giant stepped on the city, flattened. Underneath of those buildings, fire started there, over there, here. And then fire spread to all of the city. I remember that night on the 6th, all night the city kept on burning. Next day, as you see, everything was gone. And so those 7 rivers were full of dead, dying, and the people still alive. And there were some pictures, and the high school students painted according to survivors' story. There were so many, but for instance, like this. Land started to burn. People couldn't help, jumped from the riverbank into the rivers. And then from the riverside, people stepped in. Soon, all rivers were full of those people, full of the people, dying people, dead people, and there's people still alive, even including horses. Those days, and there were some horses floating when the tide was going out from upstream, going to the sea. And after that, when tide was coming in, some dead body were coming back, go and back. Some of the dead body losing their parts of the body, go and back. That's an awful scene. And all rivers were like that. I lived this area here, but even this area far away, and there were some dead body. Still, there were. And 1 week later, still, there were so many dead bodies were floating. And the people outside coming into the city and gathered them for cremation. It continued so many days. And the people rushed to my area where I live. I was born here in the city, and then this area, this Peace Park area, was the territory I used to come with my mother. And then there was a coffee shop and streets and even theater. I enjoyed here. And my elder brother and sister entered elementary school near this park. But myself, we moved in the previous year when I was 6 years old here, 1,000-meter area. I entered elementary school. I loved there. I was there until 7 years old. One day my father said, "Keiko, we have to move as soon as possible," he said. I said, "Where to?" My father said, "Oh, well, we go to Ushita area." In Japanese, ushi is cow, Ta is a rice field. Oh, cow and the rice field area, I don't want to go. I'm a city girl. I want to stay in the city. Father scolded me. "No, we have to move as soon as possible." Because those days, we couldn't make our shelter in the city. And when there was an air raid warning was silent, we had to run and run, even around midnight, and go to the foot of the hill. There was the public shelter, and the father was worrying. All of my brother and sisters cannot reach to the shelter. Actually, it was impossible, though. My father wanted to make our own shelter. So because of that, we moved there in the previous year. Because of that, I could survive. We are so lucky, but not only in the city. This is a Hiroshima city, such a huge area, actually more than this, much bigger area, and so-called black rain contaminated with the radiation fell. I have experienced that. And the people living far away place believed there is no harm and we are safe, but actually not. Some of them who were in the midst of a heavy rain area. Later, they developed serious disease and found there is a relationship to black rain. In Hiroshima, and the nuclear weapon was uranium type, but in Nagasaki, they had a plutonium type of bomb. Nowadays, people say, oh, Hiroshima bomb is just a baby bomb. In Nagasaki, and the white powder fell, not black rain. And in the States, there are so many sufferers I met. They experienced the falling of white powder at the nuclear waste. And also in Pacific area, I met some Pacific people on their islands. Some of them had scars on their around her neck, their neck. They had a thyroid cancer operation. And then 10 years after Hiroshima Nagasaki bomb, there was a big nuclear test, hydrogen test. And some people suffered. Later, they came and they appeal what they have experienced. Nowadays, so many people in the world have been suffering because of nuclear after effect, radiation effect. But anyway, and this is my former school I was going to in the previous year, several months before the bombing. I did not want to move from that school, but my former school was completely destroyed like this. And my former house was near my school. Because of that, many of my neighbors and many of my classmates died. Still, they were staying there. I could scarcely survive because father insisted to move here. You can see the shrine gate here. And there was a Shinto shrine. During the war, it is said, and in case something would happen, and go to the shrine, go to shrines or temples and the schools, there will be first aid station, they heard. So many people believed that, and they rushed to my area. Actually, and many people rushed, over 1,000 people, wounded people rushed. Even my area, in front of my house, and after the bomb, inside my house, outside, and around the Shinto shrine, there were so many people came, and they died in front of me. And there was a small park, still there is. My father had to cremate those sufferers, victims, every day, over 700 victims. Even in such a small place, everywhere was like that. People fled from the center of the city to the suburbs. In school grounds, everywhere, people had to cremate. Even little children like my age had to help adults, to carry, pulling the straw, carpet, where the victims, putting them, and they brought to the place where they had cremation, like that. My place was like that too. I saw them. And then there is my elementary school, and I was going every day to school, and some of my classmates who were in the playground had burned and suffered a lot until now. One of my friends was watching the airplane coming above us. Many were watching, and later she told me that she lost one of her eyesight. So I was shocked. She didn't tell me, and so my classmates didn't show her scar. Such a faraway place it happened. And the fire reached around this area, and not only one place, many places people started to cremate victims. And then there were some dead body floating several days after the bombing, floating in the river. And being chased by fire, many people came here after the bombing. But before the bombing, I was like this, 7-year-old girl, and when I was at school, there was time to time I read the warning, and then when we heard the read the warning, teacher said, "Okay, kids, go back, running back to your home," and they jumped into the shelter. My teacher said, I was so scared and always crying. This is myself. And then my classmates disappeared. Every time when I came to the big stone lantern, I started to cry. Why I was crying? One day when I was in the shelter, I heard a tremendous gun shooting sound like that, ba 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 ba, from the airplane. I was thinking, and the world may have bombing, from the airplane, but time to time, small airplane came down and shot. And I was so scared because after that, I saw part of my house was burning by shooting. So I believed I might be shot from the airplane. Under silence, I was crying, and "Mom, help me, I'll be shot from the airplane." I was crying and going home. On that day, this is the moment I had atomic bombing like this. That morning, 1945, August 6th, my father said, "Keiko, you shouldn't go to school today." Why not? Because I have a strong feeling that today something will happen at school. It's better stay near your house, my father said. Because previous night on the 5th, so many times we heard a radio warning. Around midnight to 12 o'clock, all of a sudden, warning started. We got up and rushed to the shelter, waited, nothing happened. Then we tried to sleep again, and then 30 minutes later, there was another warning. We got up and rushed to the shelter. We waited, no sound. Warning was cleared, and then start to sleep. And then again, another warning. That was unusual. And then early in the morning, there was once a warning though. But my father thought it is very strange. This is the first time. The previous night above us, there were airplane were. And then I was on the road alone. All my classmates went to school already, and my elder brother left to work in the city. All of a sudden, there was a strong flash. And soon after that, there was a strong blast. I couldn't stand. I couldn't breathe. And the soot, sand, and the pieces of debris fell on me. I was beaten on the road, and I was blacked out, unconscious. And I was behind the shelter, and the hypocenter was the other side, behind the storehouse. So that helped me to protect from radiation, I believe. But anyway, and please remember this street. After the bomb, toward evening or afternoon, many people rushed because they were coming here. There was stone steps leading to the shrine. There was a shrine here. Many people came this way. The other side came soon in front of my house and around here. Many, many wounded people came. But that time I was alone. I was unconscious. And then when I opened my eyes, everywhere was just dark. I thought, oh, it's already evening. How many hours I was unconscious? I was blacked out. First I thought, only few minutes I think, but I did not know how many minutes I was unconscious. In front of me, far away place, one barn was burning. There was no, and the bomb was dropped, shooting. But I found one cottage, a barn where the straw roof was burning. And then everywhere, and the roof tiles were scattered, all houses were broken, and the leaves, branches were scattered around. I couldn't understand what happened. I was surprised and sitting for a while. So I waited certain time, and I could gradually see my neighborhood. All the houses were broken, damaged battery, and finally I heard and my little brothers cry. So I thought, oh, this is the way to my house. And then I returned home, and my house was broken battery, and the room facing at the hypocenter, all pieces of glass stuck on the wall, even very hard wall like cement-like, and the ceiling was blown up, and everywhere was destroyed. That time my father was in that room, but he was only that moment behind pine tree, big pine tree. He was safe, but the other side of the pine tree box was burned. He was saved. Only short time he was behind the pine tree. And then somebody who were behind and the glass door might be hurt battery. Toward the evening, my uncle reached on his back, over 20 pieces of glass stuck on his back, bleeding battery came, and many other acquaintances came asking for help. I stepped out, and then black rain started to fall. I couldn't understand what's this. There were so many dark gray spots on my shirt, blouse. That time, my brother was working. But previous day on the 5th, he was working here. That means on the Peace Boulevard, in front of the park, you see big Peace Boulevard. Many students were working on, mainly working on that street, big street, breaking down houses. And you see many vacant area. There were flammable buildings. Many citizens, students outside of the city, inside from the city, they were working to break down houses, to make space, and also and the people to escape. And the main purpose was to divide into two sections, you see. Southern area, there was City Hall. Still now there is City Hall, prefectural government office, gas tank, other important facility. And upper part, there is a mold inside. There was a military base, you see. Here, in this area, there was a big bunker. 15 years old girls, high school girls were working. And how they were working with the commanders, one room with the receiver gathering information from eastern area like this. Now enemy is above Tokyo and like that, airplanes above Seoul and coming near. According to the information, according to those information, commander decided the timing to release a red warning. Commander's room was to the left end, and the girls with the receiver were the right end. The middle, one of my friend, and she was an operator, and as soon as she heard, and information that the commander, for instance, decided 8:15 warning, commander pushed out from the small window of the door the paper. My friend rushed and grabbed and that said 8:15, and then in front of her there were and around 10 girls sitting in front of telephones. They grabbed the phone and they report to each troops the western area. Like this, many students, even the girls, were working with commanders. My friend was that time in the shelter. She could survive miraculously. But outside, they were working 24 hours. There were other girls, over 20, around 20, all of them died because they were waiting to work from 8 o'clock. The bomb was dropped at 8:15. So many students died who were working in the center part. About 70% of students, around 7,000 students in the city died. My brother, he was working in the city, on the Peace Boulevard, but he was lucky. On the 6th, he was behind Hiroshima station and in the potato field. But on the 6th, he was behind the station, but his younger students. My brother was second year, but the first year students, there were over 320 were working on the road. All of them died. They were exposed to the bomb. No one could survive. So, miraculously, my brother could survive. He felt so sorry for the first year students. And then he was here, and then looking up the sky, there was an airplane, B-29. All the students knew the roaming sound. Over the radio, they heard, this is B-29, and sound, this is like grammar, this is so and so. They learned. Students were looking up the sky, including my brother. He was looking up the sky, airplane came. Nobody believed from such a place, such a far away, high place from airplane, and they didn't believe the bomb would be dropped. And then my brother says something, released, a very tiny black dot. And then it didn't come down straight, and they made a curve. And he was thinking that moment, oh, it didn't come down straight, but they made a curve. I learned that at the physics class. He was thinking like this. But he was lucky. A second before explosion, he turned back because the airplane, as soon as it dropped the bomb, and the left behind him. And he turned back, that small dot exploded. All the students were beaten on the and in the potato field, and saw, and for a while they were shortly. My brother was unconscious, but he came to himself. He found many students had burned. My brother had burned on his face and hand, and the others had some who put off upper clothes had a severe burn. And then they did not know what to do, and soon after that, many people were coming toward Hiroshima Station area. Nowadays, the Hiroshima Station was built in front of the former station, a new building. But the former Hiroshima Station was destroyed and burned. Many people came. There was no train from that station to go to suburbs, but people were believing. My brother was astonished. All of them were like zombie or ghost, and their skin was peeling off, and their faces were swollen up, and showing their wounds coming to the station area. My brother climbed up the hill, and then from top of the hill, he saw under the big cloud the city was burning. He saw only a single bomb, but instantly city started to the flame of fire. So he was looking up, and the other students tried to see how to leave from the city. That place, that bridge is burning, and that place is so and so. Many wounded people, they try to find out how to leave. You see, my house was the other side of the city around here. Because of that, my brother coming down and coming back to my home. Until that moment, my mother said, "Oh," and my brother, he was lucky. He was out of our house. And then my brother was coming back and shouting, "Mom, Mom, city is completely destroyed." We couldn't believe, because we heard Tokyo was destroyed by over 1,000 bombings. But Hiroshima, there was a single bomb. My brother told me, we couldn't believe. We thought until that moment, my town was the target. And moreover, my brother said, many wounded people were coming to my area. They were fleeing from the center part and coming. Actually, many people, coming like this and across the bridge, and some were already in the river and rush to my area. I step out. In front of me already, there was a line. First, one line, but secondly, more and more lines, 2 lines toward the evening, 5 lines or 7 lines. Too many people were coming to my area in front of me. They were going to the Shinto shrine here, like this. Both sides, my house was here. They were coming this way. They were coming to this way. This area, too many wounded people. They were lying on steps. There was no doctor. I saw one soldier with a tin bucket with a kind of oil, something applied. That's all. Many wounded people. Since then, every day, people rushed. I saw people in the morning, wounded person, still alive, moving their hands. Oh, this person is still alive. Afternoon, stopped to move. And then I saw many flies were coming and eating the scars of not moving people. Afternoon, those big flies laid eggs. And when they were dead, maggots appeared, covered. And I say, "Hey, this person is dead. Why don't you bring him to the park, I was shouting. I don't know why I could stare, seeing so many people dying every day in front of me. Next day, from top of the hill, I saw the city. One thing different. I saw many, many lines of smoke coming up from everywhere, from the seashore and on the riverbank. There was the park where my father was cremating victims every day. And then in my house, bloody people came, and the partially broken house was full of those people. Toward the evening, my father said, "Children, you didn't give water to the wounded people, did you?" My father said. My brother said, "Oh, no, I didn't, because everybody knows we shouldn't give water to the wounded people. People were educated like that." I didn't, my brother said. But my case, when I was in front of those wounded people, somebody caught my leg and said, "Give me water." I ran back. There was a well near the gate. I got the water and delivered with a kettle, you know. Among them, 2 persons died in front of me. I was shocked. And then I thought, I shouldn't talk that I killed them. Maybe I killed them because of water. Then my brother said, "Everybody knows." "Oh, I didn't know that, such a thing." Then from that time, I kept it secret. I couldn't consult with anybody in my family. That became my trauma. I started to see nightmare, and I tried not to recall those days. But during 10 years, more than 10 years, I saw nightmare. I cried in my dream. 10 years later, and for the first time, I told to one of my friends, "I did such a thing." And she said, "No, it's not your fault, whether you gave water or not. That person need, for him or her, the time to die. It's not your fault," she said. And since then, my nightmare stopped. So many people need to know, to tell to others, I found. Elementary school kids went to the temple in the suburbs. They were not told what happened in the city. From 9 to 12, children went to evacuated to the temple, including my brother. The day came, and Japan surrendered, and then Buddhism priest opened the main door and asked children, "What can you see in front of you?" "A Buddha," they said. "Behind the Buddha, now your parents, your sisters, your brothers are sitting by Buddha. That means they are already dead." And he started to read the Buddhism script. All children started to cry. Teacher delivered the envelope. Inside there was a sheet of paper written, "Your father died," or "Your sister died." Out of 30, around 27 kids lost some of their family. It was so hard, unbearable moment for children. Hiroshima City was like this. 1 month later, some 2 months later, around 2,000 A-bomb orphans returned home. It was so hard to survive. Even people staying there, including me, and we couldn't find out something to eat. We had to struggle to find out food, especially those orphans had a hard time. And then 4 years later, for the first time, we have hope. And then because the special law passed, and we got the budget from the government to reconstruct the city. This is the first day to start to reconstruct the peace boulevard. 12 years later, city was like this. It seems there were shops and that there were signs of doctors, and it seems like a parade for some kind of festival-like event. People, had the power to live, to reconstruct the city. But that was the start of another nuclear war, raising more and more nuclear weapons. Now we have the cenotaph, and it seemed that the city was completely reconstructed. But actually, without telling other people, everybody, survivors have fearful memory and the fear. Like my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, his house was in the center of the city. All of his family members are missing. During 60 years, he has been trying to find out any kind of information. It's difficult. After the bomb, after the cremation, there were so many mounds of ashes, and the people couldn't find out any human remains of the ashes, and they went there. And by the mound of the ashes, there was a soldier, scooped 1 cup of ash. Would you like to bring back for your missing father? Another cup for your daughter? We were asked by soldiers. People wanted to really cremate and have our family's ashes. But it's difficult. There are so many people still try to find out and still worrying about. And lastly, I would like to say, this is our the survivors' message. We shall not repeat the evil. No one shouldn't experience the evil, experience. So when we think of that, we survivors could find out the meaning to survive. All the time, many survivors blamed themselves or wanted to die, to kill by themselves. But they thought, why I'm thinking only my children? Why not to the other children all over the world? Then we found that what I can do is to tell our story to the people visiting to Hiroshima. Thanks your visiting to Hiroshima, we survivors are encouraged every day seeing them, because telling to other people, to the next generation, is kind of remedy to cure our agony and the anguish. So you are here, and you are witnesses like me now. So when you go back, please tell to others, actually, you are here and they stand exactly the site where still now under this ground many unknown victims are sleeping. So please bring back this message. We need to help each other, and that we have to work against any kind of killing, including nuclear weapon. Thank you so much.